You are now listening to The Perfect Prana with Kyah Ann. What's poppin'? What's good? You're listening to The Perfect Prana show on 88.1 FM WCRX, also available on Apple and Spotify. I'm Kyah Ann, your host and a yoga enthusiast. If you love yoga, this is the perfect place to be. And if you do not love yoga, this is still the perfect place to be because I have a great show up for you guys today. Yoga News, where I talk about things that are going on in the world, how it relates to yoga. Yoga Heals, where I bring on a special guest and talk to them about their practice, and the weekly wellness challenge, where I've been following the 8 limbs of yoga. But before we get into all of that, let's center ourselves. So no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing, you're sitting in the car driving, you're laying down on the couch, you're on a walk, doesn't matter. Let's take this moment to focus in on our breath, to focus in on our prana. Prana translating to breath as in the breath of life, our life energy source. It has many translations. But let's just take a moment to go inward. So sit up nice and tall, or if you're laying down, go ahead and lengthen out your spine so breath can effortlessly move through you. And start to relax each part of your body. Think about yourself from head to toe, all the way down from your toes, relaxing your feet, relaxing your ankles. Relax your knees, your thighs. Relax your tummy. Let it go fully. Relax your chest. Relax your shoulders, your neck. Relax your eyes. Soften your gaze maybe. Or close your eyes, relax your jaw, your eyebrows. Even relax the crown of your head. Take a deep inhale through your nose, right into your belly. Let the breath travel upward and hold at the top. And take an even longer exhale and let out a sigh and push out all of your breath. Take a deep inhale through your nose, filling up all the way, letting the breath travel upward. And hold at the top. And exhale, let out that sigh as you push out all the breath and deflate your belly. And hold at the bottom. Nice smooth inhale through your nose, filling up your belly like a balloon. And then exhale, let out that sigh, expelling anything that you do not need, pushing out the breath completely. Take a deep inhale, letting the breath travel to any part of your body that needs attention and nourishment. And exhale that sigh and expel anything that is unneeded. Come back to a steady rhythm of breath. I am centered. Let's get on with the show. Yoga News. Celebrate Holi, Festival of Colors. I'm not sure if it's Holi or Holi. It's spelled Holi. But anyways, Navy Pier is having its own little festival today, the day that this airs, at 1 p.m. And basically people wear white and then they get a bunch of colored powder thrown on them. And yeah, there will be music and dancing and cool things going on. So it's a free event. And I thought it sounded cool at first, but then I was like, ew, getting powder thrown on me, I don't know. But anyways, it's an Indian tradition, so it's a Hindu thing. I felt obligated to talk about it because all I do is talk about yoga. And, you know, yoga did come from Hinduism, or at least, what I study of it. So I was like, okay, I'll talk about it. I can't really say too much about the festival, but if you're looking for something to do, go to the festival, check it out. Read up on the history about it. Next, flexible burglar does yoga routine before swiping croissants from local bakery, video shows. So this bakery posted this video of this woman in Australia was doing a yoga routine, in air quotes, before she broke into the bakery and then stole croissants. And she wasn't doing yoga. We've been studying yoga philosophy, and we all know that one of the limbs of yoga, or one of the yamas, if you will, something part of yoga philosophy, the yogic way to live is non-stealing, and she was stealing croissants, so therefore she was not practicing yoga. Next. But on to the real yoga news that I really was like, okay, I'm gonna have to talk about this. So Oprah discusses taboos surrounding obesity and weight loss drugs on a new special. Those of you who don't know Oprah, everybody knows who Oprah is. But anyways, she's always been struggling with her weight. She's fluctuated a lot. She endorsed Weight Watchers for some time, and that helped her to lose weight. And recently, she stepped down from Weight Watchers because she's endorsing the new drug Ozempic, which everybody's talking about because it's the weight loss thing now. It's really meant for diabetics and just people really struggling with that, but it seems like a lot of celebrities and just anybody's been taking it that just wants to lose a little weight. So it varies, from their customers vary, but a lot of people have been taking it. A lot of celebrities are accused of taking it, and they probably are. Oprah endorsed this medication. There are a few reasons I wanted to talk about this. One of them being over 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. It's an epidemic, if you will. And we all know that being overweight or obese just intrinsically isn't healthy. There's a lot of risk factors that come with it. And then also there's just a lot of shame that comes with it. And I know, we want to create a culture in a world where there's less shame, so people don't feel like even worse mentally about it. But it's just all around, like, at least from my own experience with being overweight, I didn't feel good in my body. I didn't feel good in my mind. I didn't feel good in my spirit. Those things were all on different accords, and they weren't yoked. I was not happy. I was not content. I don't wish it on anybody being overweight, because that's something that I've dealt with myself. And I used to think, I wish that I could just wake up skinny. Honestly, I would probably, me in 2019 would be like, man, I wish I could just take a pill and just be skinny, because it was, exhausting. I felt stuck in my own body, and I felt like I can't change it. It's just, nothing's clicked. I can't, this is who I am. Why am I like this? Why is it so easy for other people? Why am I struggling so hard? I'm with all my friends. They're eating all the stuff that I'm eating, but why am I the only one that's fat? Why am I overweight, So, that used to be something that really wore on my spirit, and just had so many bad experiences dealing with this issue. Yeah, Oprah decided this is her path, and she talked about on her special how she went through a similar experience to me, where she didn't know why it was so easy for some people, but for her, it was just so hard. And then when she got on this drug, she realized that other people weren't thinking about food as much all the time like she was. This drug, Ozempic, and other drugs like it, take away your thoughts about food. Basically, they affect your reward system, your dopamine and your brain chemicals. They affect your mind when it comes to food. So they make you think about food less, make you think about your cravings less, cut your appetite down so then you can lose weight. I just thought that this whole Ozempic thing is kind of a paradox, if you will. I hope I'm using that correctly. But it kind of contradicts itself, because it's like you're taking a drug to not take drugs, which is a crazy concept. Look, drugs, medications, they have their place. I can't speak for everybody when it comes to this stuff. I've never really had to take any medications consistently. I've never dealt with any super chronic issues where I needed medication to survive. So, you know, I don't know what that's like. So I don't really want to speak on that too much. And I don't want to shame anybody for taking it. Like, if you're on Ozempic, like, that's fine. It's not for everybody. Some people it is for, so whatever. But this Ozempic stuff, it does have some bad side effects. Like, it comes with a cost. Not everybody reacts good to that. And then especially if it's something that you have to be on for the rest of your life. So that can be dangerous. There are downsides to most medications. So anyways, I was really reflecting on this whole Ozempic thing and weight loss and all that stuff. And there was something that I realized, or that I asked myself. I was thinking, why is it that when I did lose weight back in 2020, 2021, I kept it off. I never really went back to what things used to be. But when others have lost weight, I know a lot of people that went back, or they fluctuated, they gained weight again, and they were really unhappy with that, and they didn't understand. And I was like, why me? Why did I stick? What made me stick to it? What gave me this regularity of weight? Like, you know, what made me stick to my habits? Whenever I try to lose weight, I don't do it. It's like too hard. Weight loss and then keeping the weight off has nothing to do with willpower, for me at least. Like, when I actually lost weight and kept it off, it didn't feel hard. You know, it felt generally easy. I wasn't like really forcing myself to do much. Nothing felt too hard. To lose weight, I just started bike riding. It was movement that I could stick to and be consistent with and that I enjoyed. And I was using my movement to escape chores. It wasn't a chore for me. I was actually using it to escape a little bit. And I just started eating more vegetables. Each meal, I'd pile a bunch of veggies on my plate. Instead of, you know, if I was having spaghetti for dinner, instead of making spaghetti the main course, I made the asparagus my main course, or whatever the case was. I was just like, you know, fiber first, really loading up on my veggies. It was very intuitive, very natural, and it felt very easy. Like the weight just fell off. But anytime before that, and even after that, when I'm intentionally trying to lose weight, it's like it feels impossible and like too much for my mind. Yeah, I can't speak to why everyone is overweight, but I can say for me, it was purely just overeating and being on a ramen noodle diet. And really the fact that food just made me feel extremely good. It tasted good, it was exciting, and maybe the most exciting thing that I had going on, if I'm being honest, was what I'm eating. And usually, not just with food, but other things in my life as well, I've struggled with overindulgence. Like just going in, just like, if it felt good, I'm gonna keep doing it. So now I really enjoy food, but I really strive to be more mindful as I'm eating. really thinking about what I feel like when I'm eating and slowing down as I'm eating and really taking the experience in, and also thinking about the times when I've overate and how that felt. And I'm like, I don't want to feel like that again. I honestly fear overeating, and I hate when I do because I literally feel like poop. No, but like seriously, my stomach will hurt and I'll just be very uncomfortable, like, oh, why did I do that to myself? Now I feel horrible. Anyways, I had a few questions about this drug because again, I was just really perplexed by it. Again, taking risky drugs, not to take drugs. But my question was like, this is basically messing with your reward system for food. If you're dependent on food to make you feel good and you get on this drug and how you feel in regards to food changes, then like what's making you feel good? Okay, like what's your fix? Like, do you go to a new substance? Because a lot of people have the common experience, once they shake one habit, it's replaced with another. So, if your appetite is cut down and you were using that as your coping mechanism for whatever the case was, then do you get a new coping mechanism, or do you feel like you just need nothing to cope? You don't use any substance to cope with your stuff, or did you just replace it with a healthier habit and really get into like, I'm really genuinely curious about this whole how it works. But I guess not everybody not everybody taking Ozempic really even has an issue with overeating or being overweight. There's people that were fine, plenty of celebrities that were fine and took Ozempic, and then now they're just even smaller. So yeah. But, I'm no shame in the game, though, because I understand how hard weight loss can be in even keeping it off. So I understand people taking Ozempic and similar drugs, honestly. Though, I do wonder, how did I do that? And how am I where I'm at? I want to share that with everybody and anybody, because I know that I would always be interested and perplexed when I was struggling with my weight more about how people did it, because it felt impossible for me. So I'm like, what is it? What made you do it? And the honest truth is I changed my mind. But America does have a huge issue with obesity and being overweight. And is Ozempic the answer to that? I don't think so. I will say though, me getting more into my yoga practice kind of does coincide with me also thinking about just not overeating as much, because even after I initially lost weight, I still at times struggled with overindulgence when it came to food. So in the past year or so, when I really started practicing yoga more, and I did notice, I really honed in on, okay, how can I not overeat? What is overeating? What does that feel like? What does it feel like eating to full capacity? Like, what is that for me? And then how can I not do that? How can I eat mindfully? And a yama in the 8 limbs of yoga, which we've been practicing and studying yoga philosophy, is aparigraha, which is non-attachment, non-possessiveness. Yeah, that's something where maybe I've really kind of had to put into practice and really think about when it comes to my relationship with food, because I definitely would be attached, and every once in a while I still get that feeling, but I definitely used to get that feeling a lot, and I would behave based on the feeling of, man, what I'm eating now is so good, I don't want the experience to end, and I'm just gonna keep eating because like I don't want the experience of eating to end. I'd always be so sad, like, now what? Once I finish food, like, man, I want to eat more. Like, I want more. I want more of this reward. It feels amazing, you know? Well, I guess Ozempic changes that. But I know one thing, though. To lose weight, it does not feel like willpower. And that's basically what Oprah was saying, that people just weren't thinking about it. She was always trying so hard. But when she got on Ozempic, it felt like she wasn't even trying, basically. And people that aren't struggling with their weight, they're not thinking about it. And I agree. It should not feel like you're trying so hard. And if it does, then you'll probably not stick to it. Because it's been an interesting topic that is even more on the rise. Yoga Heals. This week's Yoga Heals. My guest is Amy Bogl, who is the founder and owner of a Chicago North Side studio, Centered Studios. She's been practicing yoga for a long time, and I'm just excited to talk with her. So let's get on with the show. Thank you so much for coming on. So let's just get into the yoga questions. The question that I ask every single person that comes into the show is, when did you start practicing yoga, and why do you still practice yoga today?
Yeah, so I started practicing yoga 29 years ago when I was 19. And that was like, I think back, what is that, 1995? And so I was like driving around, this was in Michigan, and I noticed this yoga studio was like in a strip mall. And I was like, oh, like I've always wanted to try yoga, kind of put it on my radar to pop in. I feel like maybe the internet was like, I don't know, was it even around in 1995? It was not like the way it is now. You wouldn't be like, Googling your favorite studio or, finding studios that way. So I was literally just driving and I saw this place. So I ended up popping in and I took this yoga class. And when it was over, I was walking to my car and I was thinking, you're like in that sort of state of yoga bliss, right? After you finish a class. And I'm walking to my car and I thought, I have to open a yoga studio one day. I've never felt like this before. I've never felt so good. And everyone deserves to feel this way. And so, this was, when I was 19, and I sort of just put this little seed in my head. And then 20 years later, we opened Centered Studios. So took a while, but
Wow, that was an empowering story. I mean, like, I like that you said you planted the seed was in your head, and it took 20 years to grow, but it grew. You have a studio, you're on your 9th year anniversary, and that just puts into perspective how much time goals or endeavors or whatever we want to do, how much time it could take to
yeah,
come into fruition.
yeah, absolutely. I think that it's always nice to think about, your purpose in life and the things that feel good and where you are now and where you want to be, and like, the things that you enjoy doing. And even if you can't do them right in the moment, not losing sight of what brings you joy and happiness and fulfillment, and doing small things every day to lead you in that direction.
Yes. You started when you were 19, and how many years has it been since you started practicing yoga?
Yeah, 29 years. It's so wild to think about. It's been like my longest relationship, I feel like my one constant since I began. I always come back to my mat. I definitely have done other exercises and, forms of working out, but I always come back to yoga.
Hmm. So has anything or has your relationship with yoga changed at all? And I guess what I meant to ask you, yeah, why do you still practice yoga today? I don't think we got
Yeah,
there.
yeah. It makes me completely calm. Like, I have a lot going on, right? I have the yoga studio. We used to be a team of 50. Now we're a team of 25. We're rebuilding post pandemic. And then I transitioned into real estate during the pandemic. So I have all of my real estate clients. And then I have my son, my friends, just like a lot of people and information going through me, and I need to stay calm for everyone, stay strong for everyone. And yoga really helps me do that. And so you had asked, has my practice changed over the years? Obviously, when I was 19, I did not have my son and, all of these businesses. And so it was really about staying in shape, staying, learning flexibility, becoming more flexible, finding out, there's so many different styles of yoga, which style, resonated with me. And then as I got older, it really became more about slowing down. So when I was younger, I loved taking like 90-minute Ashtanga classes or like hour, 45-minute like power yoga, super sweaty, lots of Bikram, like very intense, like super yang yoga. And as I got older, probably in my 30s and definitely in my 40s, it's really about, you know, slowing down and obviously moving my body. I think that movement every day is so important, not just for your physical body, but also for your mind. And so just about, you know, staying flexible, staying strong for myself, for my son, for my community, and really slowing down. A lot of times, that 75-minute class is the only time in my entire day that I have for myself to have a moment to like press the reset button, have like a sense of calm. And so I really look forward to practicing.
I guess, do you have a home practice, and how does your home practice compare to going to a class, and which one do you prefer?
Well, I cannot say. It would be like saying who your favorite child is, right? You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
love all my yoga teachers and everyone. We're so lucky. We have this incredible team of yoga teachers. Also, my partner at the studio, Barrett, she's just such a super, super human, and really fabulous yoga teacher. So we have all these different teachers who have had their trainings at different places. They teach different styles. All of our classes right now are mixed level flow. And so you could have someone in your class who's brand new to yoga, or you could have someone in class who's been practicing for, 30 years. And so even though all of our teachers teach a little bit of a different style, or they all have different, playlists, some people don't listen to music. Everyone is very skilled at modifications. And so you can have someone in class who's a beginner and then meet them there, but then also they all give different modifications so that, someone like me or someone else who's a seasoned yogi can really have a terrific class. So I love hitting, I think in January I took 25 classes at the studio. And so that's kind of been my goal this year is to do 25 classes every month. I fell a little bit short in February 'cause it's a shorter month and we were out of town for a week, but you get such a different workout and such a different class, different philosophies our teachers bring in. So I feel like hitting all these different classes, I'm getting just like a really well-rounded, body, mind, soul workout. So I don't have a favorite. I really do love all of our offerings. So as far as a home practice, I actually love practicing with other people. And so the only time I practice by myself is if my son and I go on vacation and there isn't a studio nearby, or we had just taken a road trip. And when we got to the hotel, I'd been like sitting in the car all day driving. And so I'm like, hey, you're going to veg out with the TV and mommy's going to do a 75 or 90-minute yoga practice just to kind of like move my body and just get some resetting of the mind after all that driving. So, but other than that, I just love practicing with all of our neighbors and friends of the studio and clients at Centered. It's just really, it just fills me with so much joy. So I don't often practice by myself.
I was just curious because you said, "Yeah, I like to go to these classes, and that's the time I get to myself." Everybody has a different relationship or way of practicing yoga, and I honestly wish that I could make it to more classes, but it really just is a schedule thing. So
Yeah.
I definitely get swooped up in and just doing things at home and being like very individual and all over the place, and it's inspiring that you go to classes. And I'm like, it's funny because I'm asking a yoga studio owner well, how does their class practice compare to their home practice. But that's beautiful. It is nice to share yoga. One of my yoga teachers told me that yoga friends are the best friends, and
So
I just
true.
thought that was cute. So
Yeah, super sweet. Also, I think it's really fun to be in class with people because everyone is at a different level when you're in class, and it's very inspiring. I love, like, we had a lot of new students in January, but almost every time I'm in class, there's several new people. And I remember my first yoga class, and I remember like feeling nervous. I didn't know, what to expect. And I think a lot of people say like I'm not flexible. I'm going to be terrible at yoga. I'll be the worst person in the room. And so we're like really welcoming to people who come to the studio, and we all remember our first class. All of our teachers remember their first classes. And so just reminding new students that we all started just like they did. We had no idea what we were doing. And then so it's inspiring to be around new students, and then also it's fun to see people get into poses that I can't get into, or that I used to be able to get into but can't anymore, and just to look around the room and see the possibilities of where you can go. I feel like even though I've been practicing for 29 years, there's so many poses that I still can't do, and it's exciting to think about as I move through my next, hopefully 29 years of practicing, where I will be and what it will look like. And also thinking about too, you had asked me earlier, has my practice changed over the years? And just thinking about where my practice was before I had my son, and then when I was pregnant, practicing yoga with this baby in my belly. And then after I had my son, how different my practice is. So it's always changing. It's really interesting.
And it seems like you've been able to stay okay with the changes and like pretty mentally flexible. And I find that that's important as I continue to practice, like just being able, like, okay, I used to be able to do this. Now I can't, or I can do this now. I couldn't do this before, but like not attaching too much meaning to it. It's just like that's the ebbs and flows of living in a human body and doing this practice. It's just like it's different day to day.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that
it's
is so true.
yeah. So I admire that. You know what I wanted to get into next, or do you currently have any goals within your yoga practice? Which you kind of did say you want to go to 25 classes a month. Yeah.
Yeah. So in January, I did these 25 classes and I didn't have like a goal or anything. It worked out that in January, those were the classes I could take. And I felt so good in January, so strong, so not stiff. As I get older, I notice like when I get out of bed in the morning, I'm like, God, I'm so stiff. Like it was not like this in my 20s. Like your body just changes. And so I was sleeping really well in January. I try to get 8 hours of sleep every night, and I just felt like fantastic. And so I had actually, I don't think I mentioned this, but I'm an open water swimmer. And so I swam until November 30th. And then I was sort of like, what am I going to do? I typically swim in the pool, but I decided I don't really enjoy that. And I really wanted 2024 to be about things that I only enjoyed doing. And so I had at that point just been practicing yoga on Monday nights once a week. And so I was like, what if you like recommitted to your yoga practice and, like the old days when you were in your 20s? And so I'm like, I'm going to give this a go again. And so, January happened and I was thinking, wow, I feel so incredible. I'm just going to keep going with this. So February, same thing, lots of yoga. And then now here we are, kind of, mid end of March, still committed to this goal of taking as many classes as I can. So other goals, I'm not a certified yoga teacher. I own the studio. I think about getting certified all the time. And so I was thinking just this week, I think in 2025, that's going to be a goal of mine that I finally get certified and then start teaching at the studio.
At your studio, would you ever consider offering teacher trainings?
It's something that we've talked about. Right now, I do not feel interested in that. It's funny, it just came up. I was talking to Paris and she's like, oh my gosh, you would be so great at, doing teacher trainings. And I definitely feel like we could offer an excellent teacher training, but there's so many other studios doing teacher trainings. And I love that we are a place where people who have gone through teacher training can come and start teaching at our space. We're one of the few yoga studios that don't require a minimum of teaching experience. We really feel like you have to start somewhere. And so we have a lot of teachers who don't have teaching experience. They're fresh out of their training. Um, and so I feel like right now, that's sort of how I want to support teacher training or, recent grads of teacher training. Definitely a thought. I don't even want to say it's on the radar, but it's something we have discussed. So we'll see what happens. Who knows? One thing I always say is one thing I know for sure is that I never know what's going to happen. So we'll see. Yeah.
um, yeah, honestly, that is a great motto to have. And thank you so much for doing that because I know it is hard to like get a job at an actual studio. And as soon as I got out of teacher training, I went to the gym, but even being able to teach at a studio is different and better in some aspects, just because there's more resources. Yeah, I guess my next question for you was just about your philosophy or your mission or something you keep at the forefront of your mind every single day.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great question, actually. So many years ago, um, just sometimes life gets intense, right? And so I came up with this mantra to lead with my heart through kindness, dignity, and grace. And I told myself if I followed this mantra, then every day would be a fabulous day. And I could lay my head on my pillow at night with like a clear conscience. And so, again, it's to lead with my heart through kindness, dignity, and grace. And that has become the mantra for my family, for my son. If you were interviewing my son and you asked him, what does mommy say to you when you're getting out of the car to go to school? He'd be like, to lead with my heart through kindness, dignity, and grace. And so I always tell him, if you do that when you're at school, you're going to have a great day. You know, everyone will be friendly because you'll be kind. And so that's one of our main ones that we definitely talk about. I mean, I think about it every day. My son probably more like once a week, but it's definitely in there. So, and then I think it's Ram Dass quote who he says we are all just walking one another home. And I definitely think about that quote a lot as I'm moving through the week. You know, there's so many people and everyone's doing different things, and some people are having bad days. And, we are all here, and there's so many of us, right? If you think about the entire population, and we're all dying, right? Like at the moment you're born, right? And so we're all just walking one another home. And so, how can we be together? And we all have like different beliefs and the way that we think, but like, how can we be together and like support one another and show up for one another and make it a life of ease and happiness and joy? So, something that I think about a lot. And then I love this other, I think again, Ram Dass quote where he says, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. I love that one.
You hit a spot for me with the quotes. We're all just walking each other home and being able to coexist with people with differences and beliefs and mindsets and all that, etc. It is important. You don't want everybody to agree with you at the end of the day. It would be weird, if
Yeah.
if we all agreed with each other about everything, it would be like, okay, now this is annoying. Like,
Yeah,
you
it'd be
know.
super boring, right? That's what makes it so special, right? That we're all different and we have to celebrate those differences. And another thing I say is, if I'm in a disagreement with someone, I'm like, intelligent people can disagree. We don't agree on this subject, but I'm grateful to hear how you feel. And I'm happy that you're listening to me. And sometimes we're not going to agree, and that is totally okay.
All right. Well, the last question that I wanted to get into with you, and I've been following the 8 limbs of yoga for my show, just been trying to stick to that for my like little weekly wellness challenge. And, I want to ask you, is there anything about the eight limbs of yoga that you focused on intently throughout your yoga, your yoga life? Is there anything from the eight limbs that you've been kind of focused on or focused on now that comes to mind? Like,
Yeah. So for sure, pranayama, right? Breath control. I noticed when I was younger, I would be like driving around in the car and I would be like sort of just exhaling or like taking like a deep breath. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, like this is me taking my yoga off the mat. Like it became this sort of ritual or this habit or this like way of life, right? So we always say like you're not doing you're not doing yoga if you're not breathing. And so just connecting movement with breath. But I think before, like, say I'm driving, I'm in traffic, whatever, something frustrating happens, I might have been thinking about it in sort of like a negative way. But as I, became stronger in my practice, like my breathing is really my guide on the mat, but also off the mat now. Like I do a lot of like just breathing through things. And I remember very distinctly the first time that happened in the car. I was like, wow, this is so incredible. I'm like doing what they say, taking my yoga off the mat. So yama, like this abstinences. I think that a lot of times, and maybe other yogis will say this too, but when you get deep into your practice, like I think a lot of people stop eating meat or maybe you stop drinking. I think there's like almost like this purification or something that happens. I don't know. I just feel like when my practice is very strong, I don't want to I don't know. I just become more of like a clean living individual. Obviously, asana, the yoga postures, asana, like a huge part of practicing yoga. Meditation, definitely would like to explore that more. I would say that is a future goal. I mean, I use yoga as meditation right now, but I know a lot of people who have a strong meditation practice where they actually sit in silence and truly meditate, something that I've been interested in. But right now, unless we do, small meditations in the studio, I don't or haven't made time for yet. So, and then concentration, certainly with myself, I always try to be present and start a task, stick with it, try to finish it. It's something that comes up with my son, right? Because he's 11 and he's, much younger. And, he'll be working on his homework and then he wants to chat about something or, oh, I want, now I need a snack or whatever. And so we talk about, our concentration a lot and like, finishing what we start before we move on to something else.
yeah, and I like that you brought up concentration because I can't wait till I get to the point where I focus on that more is in this show, but like even just in my life in general, because I know I am a multitasker and it's like sometimes when you multitask then you just completely take away energy from one task altogether.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm naturally more concentrated and that could be for different reasons, whether it's like I got a really good sleep and I made sure that I didn't overeat or I had a really good practice and then, usually there's a reason why maybe at times I'm more concentrated than the others, but that is definitely something that I'm just now realizing, to I could improve on my ability to focus more. So
Yeah, I think too, I mean, it's hard for this generation because you have all grown up with all of this technology and cell phones. And I did not have that when I was growing up. And so I remember what it was like to just like go outside and play or just sit, in stillness. And my son will say, like, Mommy, I'm bored. And I'm like, that's okay. That's great. I'm so glad that you're bored. That means you have nothing to do right now. That is such a gift. Like, just sit and enjoy that, like, see what thoughts come up for you, and he's like, "What?" Like, "I don't wanna be bored." And I'm like, "It's such a gift to be bored." Like, it means that you actually have time to think, which is such a beautiful thing. I'm like, "You don't have to always have something to do. You don't have to jump from task to task, friend to friend, meal to meal. Like, just take a moment and sit in silence and see what comes up." So, and then I want to touch too, like, on this ideal of like bliss or enlightenment. Something also, and I think it's because I've come back to my practice so strongly since January, is I was like sort of walking around my house a couple weeks ago and I'm like, wow, I feel like so happy and so content, like, with everything in my life right now. And I was like, am I like a self-actualized human? Like, am I, obviously so much work to always do, but I feel like as I get older and just paying attention to living a life with intention, um, and every night I sort of check in, like, how was my day? How did I show up? Could I have done anything differently? What do I want my legacy to be? Am I moving towards that? And then just thinking about, what I was grateful for in the day, just taking time to reflect and pausing for a moment and checking in, I think is super important. And so, yeah, I guess.
It's interesting that you brought enlightenment up. I have asked this in a past episode, but just to ask you, like, what your take is. Do you feel like you've ever reached enlightenment? Yeah, just what are exactly your thoughts on
Yeah.
this thing? Because it seems like it's not a concrete thing
Yeah.
or understanding.
Yeah, I think that's actually an interesting question, right, to ask everyone because I'm sure everyone's definition is different. Um, I, since I have been very little, I remember my mom saying, Amy, you cannot carry the weight of the world on your shoulders. I have always felt like if anyone else is suffering, then I feel like I'm suffering too. It's like we, as all of the beings in the world, how can we be enlightened or reach enlightenment unless everyone else is with us? Do you know what I'm saying? So I just, there's a lot of suffering right now. And I think until everyone is experiencing joy and all their basic needs are being met and we're all happy, like, I don't think I could ever feel a sense of enlightenment.
Interesting. Well, thank you for sharing. I'm always open to hearing what people have to say about enlightenment because I've gone back and forth with it. But I do like what you said though, because I've always said, or my dad's always told me, like one cannot rise above their people. So
Yeah.
like or the another common saying is you are your weakest link. So it's kind of like just the thing about like we don't want to leave anybody behind. It's like the
Yeah.
idea is to collectively move up.
I think that that really is true. It's a collective experience, or the definition for me is definitely not individualistic. It's the collective, which I think is, just going back to Centered Studios, I always tell people, I'm like, we're not a yoga studio. We are a community of people that practice yoga together. And so I don't know, we just have this big community at the studio.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for sharing with me about your practice and then also your journey to opening Centered Studios. It's crazy that that started off as just an idea
Yeah.
long ago, way long ago, what, 29 years ago, that started off as just an idea and to see what it's grown into. So that is beautiful. Before we go, I always ask my guests to lead us through pranayama. I know that you said you actually don't teach. I could see you being a teacher. And I say, if you can lead yourself through pranayama, you can lead anybody through pranayama. So it could just be a quick few breaths of just like, how would you lead somebody or even yourself through just a quick breathing practice of slowing down and just focusing on their breath for a moment?
I actually feel like I cannot do that. I feel so nervous. So I will have to do a second episode after my teacher training when I feel like I can actually lead you guys through. It's so
No
funny.
worries, no worries. No, for the sake of it, I was like, I had a feeling. I was like, you know what? I will lead the pranayama practice. It's a rite of passage since my first episode, but it's honestly like everybody does it differently. And I remember, I had Paris on my show like in the first season, the first few episodes, and she was just like, okay, inhale, exhale. and, and then that
I
was
love
just
it. Well,
it.
and since we're
And
talking about Paris, she actually did one of my favorite things in class today, and that is boxed breathing. So, are you familiar with that?
yes, I am. Go ahead and sit up nice and tall. Create a nice line of energy from your tailbone to your crown, so breath can effortlessly move through you. And take note of your entire body, of all your senses. What do you feel? What do you taste? What can you hear? What do you see? What do you smell? And then take a deep inhale through your nose right into your belly and let the breath travel up. And exhale passively. Then take one more deep inhale through your nose before we start this cycle, letting the breath travel up the spine. And as you exhale the breath, pushing out everything completely, letting the breath leave in a downward motion. And push everything out. And then take a deep inhale with me for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4, and then exhale. 2, 3, 4, and then hold. 2, 3, 4. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale for 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold 2, 3, 4. And then let your breath come back to a steady rhythm. And that was the pranayama practice. Yes, and I'm excited to see your journey with teacher training and just whatever other endeavors you decide to do, because, I am confident that you will show up and you will finish whatever task with focus and concentration. All I can say is just be confident. I too have imposter syndrome, but I feel like if you've been
I know. I was like, I can't even tell people how to breathe. I've been doing this for 29 years. It's so funny when you asked me if you would have seen my reaction. I'm like, what? Yeah. That's what teacher training's for, though, right?
Yeah, but the imposter syndrome never stops. It's like
Oh, God.
at some point with anything, you just have to assume the position, assume the role, and then just be like,
Yes.
this is what I am, this is what I'm doing. And then it's like in my head the whole time, I'm like, I'm stumbling. Why did I say that? What am I doing? I don't
Oh my
know,
gosh,
but
I
I'm doing
know.
it. So
Yeah.
like,
I always tell my son, I'm like, fake it till you make it.
yes.
So follow my own advice here.
Seriously, there's I've had a teacher on here actually, and she never went through a teacher training. It was just her mom and her grandma were teachers,
Oh, that's
and they
beautiful.
just threw her into it because she would practice with them, and then she
Yeah.
started subbing their classes, and
Oh, that's
she was like,
awesome.
okay, like this is what I do.
Yeah,
So
here
I'm
we
like,
go.
so there's a different path for everybody, but I know that you have a strong practice, so I'm like, you have nothing to worry about.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, hopefully I can be half as good as all of our teachers once I make my way through training. So lots of support around me, which will be really fantastic. So
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amy. So with that being said, namaste.
namaste.
Weekly Wellness Challenge. Last week's challenge, tapas, discipline, burning desire, passion. Yeah, that's what we were practicing. I challenged you all to get your heart rate up within the first hour of waking up every single morning with just 1 minute of jumping around, sun salutations, blah, 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 whatever the case is. And how did that go for me? Honestly, I've been enjoying it. There was a few mornings that I missed. I can't remember. I didn't keep track. But, I was in the spirit of trying every day. And I do like the practice as soon as I get up, or at least within the first hour, just moving around. And if I'm getting enough sleep, I can do it before 8 a.m. But if I'm not getting enough sleep, I can't. But it does feel different when I'm up at 7 something, moving around, getting my heart rate up, lengthens the time in my day. Because sometimes I'm like, I don't have enough time in the day. But yeah, that's because I sleep all morning. But I was enjoying it. It definitely was. I did feel a mood boost this past week. And it could be the fact of the time of the month it is for me, or it could be that I was getting up and getting my heart rate up, and yeah, that changed. I don't know. We'll just have to keep on going and really see how it impacts me. But I think that it is a good thing to, as soon as you get up, just get your blood flowing, get everything moving, and kind of just rip the band-aid off. Sometimes you just got to do it. Just do it. Like what Nike said. You can't, I can't always wait for that spark. I just have to rip the band-aid off and just start moving, get to it. Like, just this week's weekly challenge. I can barely pronounce this word. I'm not even gonna lie, but it's self-study. Studying is important. This actually came in the perfect time because this week I decided that I am dedicating my life to learning. I will continue to learn. And learning about yourself is an important aspect of learning. And I find that learning about the world helps me to learn more about myself. So I like the aspect of studying text and philosophy and ideologies, studying history outside of myself. So, because that is studying me. Like, this is basically the path to how my people, how I got here. So, it's just study self. There's a few aspects of that. So yeah, studying those ancient texts, those philosophies, those ideologies, what other wise people have to say, but then also just becoming more aware of yourself, which takes honesty, which is also another part of the 8 limbs of yoga. And it takes being nice to yourself, so being kind to yourself, or non-violent. It takes discipline. It takes a lot to be able to study yourself and be objective about things and find the truth, but then also be nice to yourself and make sure you're giving yourself a hug, because we all need love, right? This week's weekly challenge, what I wanted to do, pick a book, find a book this week, a self-help book of some sort, some text or article or something that you feel like helps you to be a better person or helps you learn more about something. It could be about history, it could be about how to do blah 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 blah, about how to just turn into this better person. It could be a business book, it could be, there's a lot of self-help books. It could be a religious text if you'd like it to be. It's like whatever resonates with you and on your self-improvement. Like, yeah, this book will help me improve. And then read a chapter of it or a section of it, or however the book is formatted. Read a section of the book or a chapter of the book, and then get out your good dandy journal and write about what you've read, about your interpretation of what you read. Do you agree with what you read? Do you understand what you read? Like comprehension, right? Like we're going back to elementary school. But I think that, yeah, I don't know. This will be fun. This will be cool for me. I haven't picked my book out yet. I don't know what I'm gonna read or what it's gonna be for me. But I do know that I am going to do this. I am going to pick a book, read a section of it, and then write about it because, yeah, check in with my comprehension skills. You might get a deeper meaning out of it. And then, yeah, you'll become more aware of how you comprehend things, what you read, maybe be able to apply what you read. Maybe get a deeper meaning out of it. I don't know. But I just thought that would be a fun challenge this week and it's been great talking to you guys. You're listening to The Perfect Prana Show on 88.1 FM WCRX. Also available on Apple and Spotify, where I do post extended versions. You know what time it is. Before I go, let me leave you with a quote. I chose this quote, and it is a Socrates quote. This is something that I've realized myself, but the quote is, "The only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing." Socrates. Just pulled that up off the internet. But I wanted to use this quote again because earlier I said I decided I'm dedicating my life to learning. I am on a lifelong journey to learn. I don't want to ever stop learning. When I first entered my teacher training, I was told always keep a beginner's mindset. Stay curious. You can never have enough. The knowledge is infinite. So I don't ever want to close myself off to learning. And if I do, I hope that I have the awareness to bring it all in, check myself and say, hey, Kyah, you don't know everything. You have more to learn. And it's okay if something is being repeated, because guess what? Repetition is the father of learning. So always stay open, always stay learning, always stay curious. That's the show. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll be back with you next week. Saturdays at 10 a.m., Sundays at 9 a.m. on WCRX. Check me out on Apple and Spotify, and I will be making these podcasts available on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram at Consistently Kyah to see the updates for that. With that being said, may the light and divinity in me bow to the light and divinity within you. Namaste.